Public caucus. Any items for discussion we had before?
The one thing that I had was regarding the recent passage of the federal housing bill, funding bill, or whatever. Cooper and Jackie, I was curious, in light of the passage of the federal housing bill, how has that, there's a ton in there, which is great, and it seems like you're really well positioned for it. What, if any, conversations maybe have started happening as a result of that, and are there any particular opportunities that have stood out that may be beneficial from a planning or kind of saldo development? Are there funding opportunities, that sort of thing? Not to put you on the spot completely.
So we haven't done a deep dive yet into it, but we certainly have shared we've been going back and forth with Troy and the consultant. We meet with Troy on the 27th. Also, I'm sure some of that has been at least reviewed and implemented into the housing plan, but we haven't done a deep dive into it yet. And whether that is going to impact anything having to do with our current amendment cycle that we're in for zoning at this time. That's really where we're focused on, is that we're trying to move through the amendment process to have something in front of you by September, so before budget season. So that's our timeline for at this moment. And we do have a few housing components. We're looking at the ADUs, and then we have, I can't remember if we have something else regarding housing, but I know that we're looking at ADU language and possible density language in the zoning ordinance. So, but we are aware of it, we're looking at it, but we haven't done anything in terms of a deep dive into the legislation.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Anything else on that? No?
Not on that.
Any update on the request pending before the state for funding for zoning redo?
Rich, can you speak a little bit louder?
Is there any update on the grant request to the state regarding the zoning redo?
So are you referring to the MAP grant?
Yes.
Through DECD?
Yeah.
So we were denied that last year.
Right.
And encouraged to reapply, which we did for another municipal assistance planning grant through the state. And we did that in March, applied for a comprehensive plan, complete rewrite, if you will, of our comprehensive plan. So as far as we know, we have not received official award of that grant, but we have heard that we are most likely a potential candidate.
Still pending.
Still pending. They have not announced if they have not announced the awardees as of yet. And we're hoping to find out with maybe August if we receive that grant. That was a $200,000 comprehensive planning grant.
Okay. Thank you. Other commissioners have a question or items?
So I know obviously we've been working through saldo updates for a while now. One of the things that I mentioned it, I think, last year when we were going through the process, when we had some meeting, was the fact that despite having digital standards for submission of plans, we still require 3 wet copies. The comment was, oh, well, the county requires that still. At the time, I asked a question if a conversation had ever been initiated with the county to see if that could be done away with and we could go all digital to try and improve and speed up the process, and the answer was no. It seems like since we are working through more saldo changes, that may be something worthwhile to pursue, trying to engage with the county to get to a point where, at least at a minimum, a digital-only submission package is allowed, creating, whether it's optional to include 3 wet copies or whatever, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, we're creating more work and we're slowing the process down by having that hard requirement in there. So I think at a minimum, it would be great if we can at least try and initiate that conversation and try and, we've got to update these processes. We've got to speed up the, approval of that entire process. I know you both know this, I'm just restating it. That seems like a very simple, low-hanging fruit one that we should be seriously looking at and trying to incorporate.
Is there anything that, at the county with Pete Link that he does, is anything done digitally currently? Or is it just?
The hard copies are for the recorder of deeds, and we can ask there, but I would think the county still has to do the hard copies too to record them.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we need to have the conversation is, I mean, obviously we can't force them to update their process, but it's 2026, and the fact that we are still requiring 3 wet copies is embarrassing, but also it's a waste of money. It's a waste of time, money, resources. We got to get with the program.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would appreciate if you could indulge me for a moment because I would like to make a statement at the meeting here today. And I've received several calls from people and the general public as well concerned about my absences at the Planning Commission meetings. And so I did want to address that. I certainly appreciate the people that have reached out to me concerned about where I've been, and as most of them that have reached out to me know, I've been actively involved in this community for more than 40 years and have been actively involved in numerous organizations where I take my responsibilities very seriously. And I have, unfortunately, have a family situation that's a very sensitive medical ongoing situation that prevented me from being at the last 2 meetings. I had it long ago expressed that this situation had occurred and thought that it would be understood when I missed meetings. There'd be no other reason except for that. And Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that you and I had a conversation about that in June, and I appreciate your reaching out and the concerns that you had for the situation. We talked it through, and at that conversation, I reaffirmed to you that I am committed to the work that we're doing. I've stayed up to breast at the activities of what's going on in the community. I was invited and was able to attend the Bayfront 1 meetings that the administration very successfully put on, and I believe those, in addition to our being at the formal meetings, are part of our responsibility. And so I apologize to members who of the commission here who may not have been aware of my situation, or I certainly could have communicated better to more members and better to the staff. And so certainly apologize to the community if there is any misunderstanding, and certainly to the members of City Council who have appointed me to this position of responsibility, and just reaffirm here today on behalf of the community, because certainly I have no conflicts. I serve as an independent person with no agenda other than what is best for our community, and will continue to serve in that capacity, and in here today, ready to continue the work. I can say that fortunately at the last meeting that I missed, there was no business that was voted on, but have kept up on those things, as I mentioned, and am ready to continue to move forward and desire to do so. So I appreciate your indulgence in that, Mr. Chairman. And as I said, I appreciate staff members who have reached out to me and asked, and other commission members that have done the same. It means a lot, particularly in the sensitive situation that I found myself in and my family. But we'll continue to take on our responsibility and move forward. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Appreciate your kind and thoughtful words, and we'll proceed on from there.
Thank you.
I had one last thing that I wanted to at least bring up for our discussion, if that's all right. Sure. So one of the things I've seen a number of other cities do in their planning aspect of it is incorporate the administrative approval process for kind of low-level type applications, replattings, smaller things that right now still do come before us technically. Well, not technically, but do. I wanted to at least bring up the idea of looking at some of those smaller piecemeal tasks that might be appropriate for something like administrative approval. The other piece of that is obviously looking at capacity from the staff to handle something like that. I know we don't have a ton in terms of kind of stats or data as to what the volume looks like. We're collecting a lot of that now, but we also haven't had a ton come forward the last few years that we know about. So I wanted to throw it out there and see what other commissioners thought regarding prospect of trying to, or at least considering some of the areas that we might be able to use the administrative approval to expedite things, as well as, like I said, what capacity you all might have to handle some of that.
I personally think it's a good idea to evaluate the possibility of that. I think it's, we have to be mindful of the many hats that our staff wear in different roles, and so I don't want to see us simply dump a whole bunch of smaller things on them that will divert them from being able to address the ongoing concerns that we might have about in other areas, but also their ability to get the job done in a timely, expeditious manner, which is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I'm not actually trying to create more work for you, even though it definitely sounds like it. I'm just trying to actually, maybe empower your staff a bit more and
Yes.
try and hopefully take some things off of the plate that we can speed up.
Just to make note, we certainly have reevaluated our amendments that we made over the last year. As you know, we are now in compliance per the state regulations and made massive amendments to our saldo process. So I think once we sort of level set, we communicated with the engineers and developers and the architects as to what the new process was. We are now reevaluating this again to see how we can potentially have maybe areas where we can have a bit quicker process. It certainly is something in the state regulations that allow for staff capacity to, or staff to approve certain like you said, replats, even though we don't have replats, but minor subdivisions and that type of thing. But we've had those internal discussions. I think we're trying to level set for a few months and then
Get your breath.
yeah, and make sure that if we are going to make those types of changes, that we are evaluating it and then looking at best practice and also capacity. But if it makes sense to again amend the saldo at this time, so we can look at that also.
Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, I bring it up in part to your point earlier of having things by September budget season. If these are things where, hey, there is some, whether it's professional services or some commercial software that we can look to for helping, take those things off your plate, but still deliver better service to citizens. If there's a way that we can leverage, technology to improve some of these pieces, then that's something we can at least throw in the budget and hopefully, see funds allocated towards it, or at least make the case for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or concerns before we move on? There being none?
Said I'm done.
I'll believe it when I hear it, don't hear it. So we'll close the public caucus session and proceed with the meeting. Mr. Secretary, will you read the roll?
Chair Rich Spiker,
Here?
Vice Chair Doug Spizzarni,
Here.
Commissioner Carl Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Colin Russ,
Here.
Commissioner Jason Wazorek,
Here.
Bureau Chief Jacqueline Spry, Assistant Planner Cooper Moore, I am here.
Thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda for discussion is approval of the June 16th, 2026 meetings. Are there any changes or updates to those? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There being none, minutes are approved. The next item is the approval of a June 11th, 2026 special meeting minutes. Again, these were distributed previously.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Item 5, public comment and correspondence. Anybody in the audience like to speak to the commission?
Good afternoon, Kathy Schaff, Erie, Pennsylvania. Do we have a way to do benches in the city of Erie? Like, is there an ordinance? I think there isn't enough benches in our city. I travel a lot, and so many cities have benches, and a lot of them, I notice, are dedicated in memory and in honor of people, and are long-lasting benches. Do we have that? Do you know? No. And it's actually been on my heart for some time now, especially the older I get, because I cannot stand on my feet the way I used to in my younger years. So I would like, that's sort of what you would call low-hanging fruit, because like perhaps I would give a bench in honor of my father or something like that. And people would do it perhaps for free, so it wouldn't be a cost other than putting them in, public works, what have you. But I really enjoy visiting cities, and they memorialize, and I may have some pictures too, because I take pictures of that kind of thing. And trees could be the same way as well. I was just in Waterford for their Heritage Days, and they had like gravestones for tree markers in memorial of different groups and things. So another thing, in your bylaws, I didn't look it up. You have an alternate, I'm assuming, because in the past, I remember going to meetings where an alternate was at your meetings, correct?
there is a provision in the bylaws for 2 alternates, I believe.
We can have alternates, but at the moment, we don't have any alternates.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. And your suggestions are appreciated and well worth considering.
Would that be
Yeah.
something that coordinates with Public Works, since that falls under there? So, I mean, it seems like benches, I love the idea. I've also said that we frankly need more garbage cans as well, just to avoid the litter, but my understanding is that those things typically require coordination with Public Works. Is that?
Currently, there is no process if you want to donate a bench to the city of Erie. However, we are, and this is coming out of partly our recommendation from the Master Parks Plan, is to establish a Parks Commission, Parks and Public Open Space Commission, where those types of decisions would funnel through that body. So,
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I know several years ago, EMTA had undertaken a process to not only have benches at their stops, but providing other benches, and we may find that there's a inventory. I know they used to have an inventory that was kept of the benches, and I was a part of the creation of the Downtown Improvement District, where early on in its founding, trash cans, particularly in the downtown area, and benches were a part. So I don't know if they may still have an inventory of what was provided at that time, but those might be 2 potential sources for us to look at.
Is that something you'll be able to undertake, to find out whether there in fact is an inventory and report back? Thank you.
Might be helpful to get those into the GIS as well, just for
Yeah.
audit purposes.
yes, there's been multiple streetscape improvement grants that we do have some inventory that just happened to come across my desk recently. So we do have some availability to look at what existing benches we have, but we do know that we have a lack of seating, especially in our parks system. So that inventory was done as part of the parks master plan, and we do have that already within the appendices of the parks plan.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
guess just the thought just came to mind, if you don't mind if I continue. With the Downtown Improvement District, one of the benefits and rationale for doing it through them was that individual donors in the community could get a tax deduction for making a donation. The problem that arose with that is that there was a defined area of the Downtown Improvement District for them to be responsible for. So, people tend to be fearful of government and don't necessarily want to give, to the government. They think they're already paying their taxes, but they will make contributions to nonprofits. So perhaps when the Parks Commission is set up, or a mechanism could be created that somehow it's a nonprofit charitable donation that's being made. And that's what was done, at that time. But again, it had a limited geographic area.
Right. Thank you. Good idea. Anyone else would like to speak to the commission? If not, we'll close public comments. Is there any correspondence we've received?
We have not received any correspondence.
Thank you. There is no old business, so we will proceed to new business. Item A under new business is subdivision. 1540 East Lake Road, a minor subdivision submitted by David Laird Associates for final approval.
Good afternoon. Jim Toohey, attorney for National Fuel, presenting the petition. I'm here with Matt Dabowski,
Matt Dubowski, Senior Director, Land Department, National Fuel.
I also believe Laird Surveying may be joining us remotely. I don't know how they get pulled in, but Kevin Farr was going to be joining us as well. If you had any technical questions on the subdivision request that's being presented today. By way of brief background, is Kevin here? Is he on there? Okay, great. By way of brief background, National Fuel closed on the acquisition of 9.5 acres, 1540 East Lake Road, probably about a month and a half ago. It's the parcel immediately adjoining the parcel that we're seeking to subdivide. SB3, the seller of the real estate, the 9.5 acres to National Fuel, also owns a much larger 100-ish acre parcel that's vacant land for the most part that surrounds to the south and to the east the SB3 1540 parcel that we closed upon last month. During diligence, it came to everyone's attention because on an eyeball of the property, you would presume that the portion that we're seeking to replot, if you will, would have been included in the acreage that was being acquired. It wasn't until the subdivision was completed that we recognized that the easterly portion of the parking lot is in fact on the adjoining 100-acre plus parcel. The parties negotiated and agreed that a permanent easement would be granted to National Fuel for that space. That easement was recorded when we closed with the intent that the parties would subdivide after the closing occurred. You can see the map there. It's about an acre. It includes, as I said a moment ago, the easterly portion of the parking lot, and then there's also a portion that's it was paved initially but hasn't been kept up that runs all the way up to East Lake Road there that could be used for additional down the road if things go as National Fuel hopes. And that gives you the lay of the land and background. It's just the final piece of an anticipated acquisition. SB3 will then continue owning the surrounding vacant land, and National Fuel, with your approval, intends, of course, a deed will follow the recording of the subdivision map and intends to use this part of its project and parking for its development of the parcel, which is already started. Significant plans are in the works.
Anybody have any questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion for
Second.
approval. And a second. Any other questions or? We'll proceed. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item B, land development. There is item A under land development is the Bayfront Market House. Major development submitted by Urban for preliminary approval.
Gus Fine with Erie Events, here with Steve Austin.
Steve Morbay with GE Austin, construction manager.
I'm Dave Harrington from Urban Engineers.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're here for land development permit. We've gone through council and now the previous approvals that are needed. Here to answer any questions you have.
There were numerous comments that were made at the design review, committee review of the project, and these were perhaps reiterated when Commission approved sending the zoning request on to council for their consideration. Were those accepted and coordinated within the project design?
Through the waterfront conditional use?
Yeah, as part of the waterfront conditional, I mean, do the
Yeah, the environmental, the architectural
Yep.
consistency, yes, all of those were included in the final resolution that was passed.
Okay.
So I'm just going to reiterate a point that I made previously. I am disappointed by the volume of parking considering the expansion to the garage nearly adjacent to it, but I recognize that that is what is required at this point. So absent a variance, that's what we're stuck with. But I actually do have a, I guess, clarifying question, perhaps more just for public record. It seems like there's a lot of confusion as to where this is going. This is currently just a big gravel area that's being used for staging right now. It's not some beautiful public space that's being disrupted by any means. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, and I'd agree there's confusion on that. This has always been a parking lot, and actually, before that front street went through this property, we then were providing an easement as of now for the new front street. So this created essentially a postage stamp of a gravel lot property. So there was no existing property there. It's actually a good functional use for this space, which has kind of been carved out through the moving of Front Street because of the Bayfront Parkway project.
One other question that just came to mind. I've heard from a number of people who own electric vehicles, access to charging infrastructure within the city proper is unfortunately challenging, is limited because of the understandably higher traffic area just with the hotels and ideally the traffic that is attracted to this property. Have there been any considerations for incorporating EV charging infrastructure in the development, in the parking spaces, that sort of thing?
We haven't had conversations related to this project. We do have 2 at the Sheraton parking ramp and 2 as well at the Courtyard parking ramp, which is just north of this. But that's certainly worth considering. That's actually a good point.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Mr. Klein, good to see you. With this being a project of the Convention Center Authority, I presume that a majority, if not all of the funding for this project is public money?
Yes, it's funded through
one form or another.
funded through several RACP grants over the years, 5 to be exact.
Okay, thank you. With that being said, and I know that you guys have gone through the process and up to the point where you have received unanimous support, it seems like, for the vote on this. With the construction season beyond upon us for this year, where do you see this project with further delays in the construction and the escalating costs that seem to be continuously happening, the availability of workers and professionals to perform the, oh, I'm sorry. Yep. The workers and professionals available to perform the work and also the the timeline to be able to get this done, the availability of steel and other structural materials. Where do you guys see all of that, and what is the importance of continuing to move this project forward, exponentially?
Yeah, unfortunately, the delays will impact the completion because we've missed several months with good weather that we'd be able to get a lot of construction done. In terms of the steel, we did take a risk and we ordered that steel ahead of time because the lead time was well beyond so we took the risk and actually ordered that. It actually arrived on site today in anticipation that we'll soon be past these final hurdles. We plan, as long as we get approval today and then through the August 18th meeting for a final reading, we'll plan for a September start. It's not ideal, but hopefully we have a late winter, maybe a light winter. I think we're still anticipating an 18-month window for the total construction, so it'll put us out to 2028, instead of 2027. In terms of labor, we've had a lot of conversations with the local labor unions. This is one of two large projects that in the area that are coming to the fore. So all indications are they're excited about this. I don't anticipate there will be any staffing issues, which is a good thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if I have a minute, just in advance of my vote, want to explain my position and reasoning. I feel that this project is a valid project, but the location is fundamentally flawed. If we had a valid master plan for our bayfront, I think it would dictate different outcomes for this site. In particular, leaning into my planning background, I think the biggest problem with the design of our bayfront is north-south connectivity. And every solution that has been proposed in the last 20, 30 years has been east-west connectivity. Primarily, my thought is the neighborhood, our West Bayfront, is essentially severed from the use of everything north of the Bayfront Highway. I know this is a situation you've inherited. 40% of our city's population doesn't have access to a vehicle. So a more centrally located market seems to would be more ideal in a perfect world. Erie's about to become the only city in the world that has two roundabouts on its urban waterfront. Directly on this drawing, directly south of the roundabout that we're locking in with this building, we're also locking in a retaining wall. It's approximately 20 feet tall. We have two retaining walls that are prohibitive to that north-south access, and I think if we had a valid master plan, that would solve those problems so that people can walk down the hill and enjoy the waterfront with our actual residents, because the primary function of our bayfront as it stands right now is suburban residents are the primary users. And I think that's a sad fact, and I think generationally we should be trying to solve that, and I don't think this project unfortunately does this. I wish it was in the middle of the city where people could walk to it and hop on the bus line, but unfortunately I think this will be a very select percentage of our population that will be using this, that drives home from work every day.
Can I have an opportunity to respond to that?
Yeah.
Okay. In all honesty, I don't know that I'm going to change your vote, but you seem to be misinformed on part of that. The north-south connection that's going to happen over the roundabout is happening because of this project. I'm not sure if you're aware that there's going to be that PennDOT is building a bridge.
I'm aware. I'd like to know how Grandma gets her groceries up and down that ramp.
Well, Grandma would probably have to drive and park in one of the 7
Again,
parking
40% of
spots.
our city's population doesn't have cars, so some grandmas don't. So
Well, I agree that there are several issues to address in this city. We cannot be the father of all solutions.
The
This is an
highest and best
individual.
use for this site, in my opinion, is public green space that connects the northern end of the our West Bayfront neighborhood to the Bayfront, which that does not have access to it right now. If you're familiar with the term redlining, I don't see how the Bayfront Highway doesn't meet the definition of a red line. I know that's you're inheriting that site. I just feel like this.
We're simply trying to activate a space that is currently a parking lot, and we're creating a connectivity from the bluff to the over the parkway to a market house. We're building the elevator.
Who is the market house intended for? What's the client? Are we trying
The market house is intended
for residents or tourists?
both.
Because it's not going to work. It's not the highest and best use for residents. This is the best location.
Jason, that's a
That's
matter
outside
of
of the-
opinion. I mean, I respect the fact that you disagree with that, but at the same time, I mean, I can tell you firsthand, I've spoken to people who are perceive this as a place that they are going to go and see it, who live here and say that. I mean, yeah, we can talk about accessibility things. If anybody listening wants to come and propose a gondola system for Erie, great, we've solved it. But we're talking about issues that are outside the purview of Erie events in this development that go, I'm not dismissing the validity of the concerns, but Erie Events isn't going to buy a car for everybody who doesn't have one, isn't going to build, a new tram line. We've got to look at this within the scope of what this development is actually doing. Yes, there are things that could be better, but it doesn't mean that's all on the organization proposing it necessarily
So
to
let's
fix
talk about
everything.
real quick, the closest, most famous market house near us is the Cleveland West Side Market, right? They just had to get a $100 million bailout from the city of Cleveland. They
Because of
just gotta
massive deferred maintenance.
Purchase them. No, it's functionally, they're not even predicted
The
to
money
turn a
overwhelmingly went to
profit for.
deferred maintenance because the place was falling apart.
But the
Can
flaw
we
with Cleveland.
focus on the matter ahead, in front of us?
This is the planning commission, we're talking about planning, and I think that's part of my points. The location of the planning of this project.
Well,
I feel that it being at the northern border of our city, the catchment, are you familiar with catchment areas for business plans? If Giant Eagle wanted to open a store here, they'd have to do pro forma, right? And the catchment area of the project is you draw a circle around it and figure out the geography and the population within that geography. Half the population of this catchment area for this project would be fish, because it's on the lake. So, that's my point. Is I just feel like this
Well,
is
Giant
not-
Eagle's a for-profit company that has to rely on
Yeah,
profits
and you get to spend all of our government money with,
to provide impact to tourism and community, local community impact. That's
We'll
our
cross
objective,
our
that's our mission.
fingers. Yeah.
We can disagree
Yeah.
whether you think that does that or not. We do believe that it does that.
I hope it does. But if I'm gonna go to a market, I hope this one blows me out of the water, but I'm packing my cooler and going to Cleveland to get all the obscure goods and.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, but you gotta make it that good.
all right,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I just want to comment to the discussion, and I greatly respect the insights of Commissioner Wazorek. I think his voice should be heard louder throughout the community. Planning is an integral part of what needs to continue to take place in our community. But I would also say that I've worked with the Convention Center Authority. I know that the projects the Convention Center Authority undertakes are successful. They have funding behind them. The Convention Center Authority is the number one, without question, not even close, organization in our community that has been able to bring back state tax dollars and federal tax dollars to projects in this community for the ballpark and the many, many other projects that have been undertaken, including for the zoo. I believe in the project that's moving forward because the Convention Center Authority is attached to it. Otherwise, I may have greater reservations myself. But as we sit here today, I think the planning, number one, the Convention Center Authority somebody has to have land somewhere to be able to do a project like this. The Convention Center is the organization that has the land to undertake this project. And the funding has already been brought forward, or at least a majority, much of it delivered from the governor of the state of Pennsylvania already. And this project has received unanimous support from the City of Erie Council and the administration. And so I think it's a project that's already in the works of working, just looking for final approval from us at this point. And Mr. Chairman, and certainly I'll wait until any comments are concluded, but because of the importance of this project for the unions in this area and working people here, and because of the late season that we have in construction and the delays that occurred, I'm going to make a motion that we move this project to a second vote today for the reading of a second reading and for a final vote.
Second. I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition?
Nay.
One nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move on, I will concede to no one the importance of planning. But this is happening this discussion about what should be there is happening at the wrong end of the process. This needs to happen at the beginning of the project, not when you're coming for
That
approval.
timing doesn't make an idea infallible. It's-
But that doesn't necessarily mean that this is the time for us to solve the rest of the city's problems.
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
the purpose of our existence.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
since have moved it to a second to be voted on today, I would make a motion that we vote for final approval on the plan.
We do that?
We just did.
I think we moved it to a second vote, to be able to vote on it. I think we have to take one more vote to
I
final.
thought it was motion to approve.
They will submit a final plan submission, and then next month, it'll be on the agenda for final approval if everything is okayed by our engineers.
Well, I thought their final approval, their plan was here already.
This
No,
was the
they were here
preliminary
for
plan.
only for the preliminary approval. We'll get
So
a
it's
chance.
pending-
So then
pending
they're
engineering
not
review
here and
for it.
ready for a final approval? So moving it, I mean, I think they should answer that question. Moving it for a final vote then was moot if they're not prepared.
Well, it
My
would-
understanding is that they were prepared for a final vote and to save part of the construction season. So
The
if we
city
can-
has not received a final plan submission from the project yet.
When in your eyes should we be allowed to constructively criticize a project? During the preliminary review or the final review?
Whenever you want, apparently.
Well, I was just told.
Can we ask them
I was
to
just
come
told I
back
wasn't
in, or
allowed.
what?
I mean, the motion before us today was for preliminary approval.
That's correct.
There's
The
no-
motion before you was for preliminary.
Right.
We have not received a final plan yet. However, I'm asking the solicitor if they need to redo their motion, because you did say for final approval. And
Correct.
so, solicitor, do we need to redo that motion
Well, I think we would.
for the record?
I will move to rescind the previous
Yeah.
motion
Yes.
and move to approve their preliminary approval.
The
Well,
way I would look at it, the plan that was before you for your consideration was the preliminary plan. Per the ordinance, they have to submit a final plan, which has not been submitted to you yet because they had to get through this process first. So I understand the language of the motion. However, there was no final plan for you to evaluate in the first place. So I would say that if you want to redo the vote, that's fine, or you could just put in the minutes that the understanding of the motion you took was to pass the preliminary motion, the preliminary plan, with the knowledge that they are going to submit a final plan per the Saldo ordinance.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
and if you guys don't mind, since I made the initial motion, I'd like to ask to be the one to make the motion to rescind it, because what we were asking for was to move this to a final vote. It's already on the agenda to make it a preliminary,
Right.
to approve the preliminary vote. So I think we should just rescind what we just voted on and just vote on what is on the agenda. I think that's the cleanest way to do it.
And my main basis is there's no final plan for you guys to consider yet, so it's
Yeah.
hard to vote on something that's not in front of you.
Yep.
Right.
That's my
Thank you.
understanding.
Okay,
Thank
my understanding that they were ready for a final vote and wanted to move it forward, but I would then make a motion that we rescind the vote that we just took.
Second.
Can we pair it up with rescind the
And-
prior and
and-
approve the,
Preliminary?
yeah.
Do a preliminary?
Well, I think we should separate them. I mean,
Okay.
just rescind this and then let's vote on it.
All in favor for rescinding the previous vote?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? All right.
Okay, and then, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve the preliminary vote on the approval that's on the agenda for today.
Seconded.
Approval in a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposition?
Nay.
Thank you. Well, item B, 1912 Liberty Street. The land development, major land development submitted by MGM General Construction Corp. For preliminary approval.
Good afternoon. We're here today about West End Hardware, 1912 Liberty Street. As a little bit of history, the company originally started in 1922 and ended up at the Continental Rubber demolition site at 19th and Liberty in the early 90s. We built that building for them back then. The area was considered, we called it Beirut, kind of for fun, but they've added on to that site. They've cleaned it up completely. Now what they're looking to do is make final site improvements. They want to add an addition of 7,020 square feet. They're going to maintain the 19th Street setbacks. We're going to stop short of Plum Street. We'd like to maintain the floor elevations of the building all the way from front to back. And this plan would allow a truck access drive-through from Plum to Liberty Street to allow them the opportunity to continue to grow. Our intention is 100% compliance with the saldo. It's turning into a nice corridor now, and we're asking for a preliminary plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion for approval. Any other questions or discussion? Being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item, new business C, rezoning. There is none. Item D, waterfront conditional use, 1318 East Lake Road, waterfront conditional use, submitted by Porter Consulting for recommendation to City Council.
Good afternoon. I'm Jake Yatsko. I'm with Porter Consulting Engineers. I'm here on behalf of the Economic Development Center of Erie County, as well as Nine Ships Company, here to ask for your review and recommendation approval for the Nine Ships Company site and building development waterfront conditional use application. Before I get into the drawings, I'd just like to give a little bit of background about about Nine Ships Companies. They're a parent company to three established companies here in Erie. First is Modular Engineering. They are located here in the city of Erie on 18th and Cranberry Streets. They specialize in the prefabrication and assembly of modular buildings, guardhouses, electrical enclosures, and modified shipping containers. They fully assemble those modular buildings, put them on a truck, and ship them to customers all throughout the country. Also, Corporate Glass is under the Nine Ships Company umbrella. They are in Fairview. They're on Millfair Road and West Ridge Road. They specialize in glazing and glass glazing system fabrication installation services here in our region. The last is ME Construction. They're a local interior framing and fit-out contractor here locally. Growth and success of those three companies that really caused the need to expand and create a larger and more centralized location. So they've decided to team up with Tina Mangine and the County Redevelopment Authority and looking to invest in the city's east side here at 1318 East Lake Road. Before I, again, want to give you some background here, we had some preliminary meetings with Jackie Spry and the Neighborhood Economic Development Department, and we were able to facilitate 2 public outreach meetings at the Boys and Girls Club there on East Lake Road. I thought those were very successful. We had, the first meeting was during daytime hours, and then we also held a second meeting in the evening for the residents. We were able to inform the residents of the operations of each of the companies. And we also were invited by Father Presaro to a Hess Avenue and East Avenue Neighborhood Watch meeting. That was at the end of June. Again, I also thought that went very well. The two main concerns coming out of that meeting was air pollution. That we were able to inform the residents there that because of the nature of these businesses, there's really no chemical discharge or anything they should be concerned with there. The second being a large truck, semi-truck traffic. There will be semis and large vehicles coming out of this facility, but maybe a few times a week because of the custom nature of what they're building here. They're very infrequent. Following that neighborhood watch meeting, we actually received a letter from Father Presaro, which I provided to Cooper. I'm not sure if he was able to recirculate to you guys, but the response we've gotten from the neighborhood so far has been pretty positive. Just with that being said, I can kind of flip through our application here. This drawing is what we're calling the pre-existing conditions plan. So this is the old Hammer Mill International paper site. On the right side of the page is East Lake Road. On the bottom of the industrial area there is Hess Avenue in the residential district. Our site is a flag-shaped property that you'll see on the next drawing that is narrow there. And here we go. There's a purple outline here that shows the boundary of our property, but it's along the northern boundary of the residential properties, and then it opens up into a flag shape there next to the lakefront. This is proposed site plan. Again, shows the access that will be strictly in East Lake Road, and it shows the warehouse and the office facilities. The office facility will be about 20,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet footprint in the office area, and then approximately 55,000 square feet of warehousing there, again, along the lakefront. What we're trying to, our intent overall here is to show, especially for this waterfront conditional use application, is to show a natural transition between the residential properties along Hess Avenue and then into the heavy manufacturing district there that was the old Hammer Mill site. So what we're portraying here on the existing screening and photometric plan is there is a significant amount of dense tree screening there along the residential properties. Go ahead to the next one, Cooper. This is our landscape screening plan. Again, it's our intent to use the existing screening and keep as much of the existing mature trees as we can. And with that, we'll also supplement it with some landscape berms, some additional tree screening, and the other tree plantings that the ordinance requires. You can see on the, kind of on the right side there above the pictures, we are proposing a few landscape berms there. Really, anywhere there's where we have our parking lot and gaps within the existing screening, we want to plant those berms, dense shrubbery, and trees to create a pretty solid screening buffer there. This is a rendering of the building. This is what we intend it to look like here. Elevations of the property. From here you can see that we meet the height requirements here. We're less than 40 feet on the high end of the building. Interior floor plans, first floor and then the next one, second floor. With this site plan, show the strategic location and the positioning of the light fixtures we chose. Again, we're looking to minimize light pollution within the sky and any spillover of lighting onto the neighboring properties there. And the last page here is our photometric plan. If it's there, should be one more, but Oh, here it is, right there. So this is our photometric plan to show the foot candles of how we disperse our light. Trying to show here that we are not going to spill over into the other properties. Before I open it up for questions, there's just a couple of previous comments that and potential questions that I want to address. From the Design Review Committee meeting we had earlier this month, we discussed the need for potentially having planter islands every 12 parking spots. Matt and I have spoken about that. That requirement is only for interior parking spaces, so we do not propose it here, and Matt concurs that it is not required. Next subject is a 25-foot bluff setback. We meet the 25-foot bluff setback with the exception of a very small corner of our parking lot and fence area there in the bottom left corner or northwest portion of the site. Matt is reviewing that to see if any slight modifications will need to be made. Whatever he determines, we're happy to comply with those requirements. This is a waterfront conditional use district. One of the main requirements here is public access. We do not propose public access along the shoreline there. My interpretation of the ordinance is that it is for bayfront water's edge. We are only along the lake shore here. Also, because of the nature of it being residential properties to the west and heavy manufacturing and a large bluff there to the east, we don't believe it's required nor appropriate in this position. One additional thing I wanted to mention, I think it was your comment, Chairman Riker, about putting in place some type of a commitment for the maintenance of the screening that we had here. Certainly happy to do that, and we can do that within the land development process that could be recorded with the, we could note that and make that commitment within our land development process.
Thank you.
With that, that's really all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Thank you for being here today, and certainly all of us should applaud any new business that's coming into our city. It's a welcome change, and I applaud the work of the Erie County Redevelopment Authority in moving this forward. In all of the groups and organizations that you mentioned, one that you did not mention was your immediate neighbor, who is the Youth Leadership Organization immediately in front of you, and the present home to the East Side campus of the community college. So I would hope that you would have communication with them and have good neighbor relationships with them. The Redevelopment Authority has partnered with them on numerous occasions and has a very positive and proactive relationship with them, and they're an integral part to that neighborhood and the stability of that area. So I would certainly encourage that and want to make sure that you're aware.
Yes, Edison Nicholson, who is the CEO of that facility, was at one of our Boys and Girls Club meetings and had some questions and has been in support with us, and we are in constant communication with those guys.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. No further comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? It's approved. Thank you very much. Again.
Commissioners, if I could just make one quick comment.
Yes.
I would just like to thank Nine Ships and Ashley Porter and his staff for going above and beyond what we encouraged. We worked together in asking that community involvement be part of this process, since they are so close in adjacencies to the neighborhood. And they really came through in terms of having public meetings, using the city's connections and inviting people to the table and listening to them. So you set a precedent, I think, and we have made some amendments to our saldo process because of that. And I just want to thank you and acknowledge that that you went above and beyond what we encouraged, and appreciate that for our community. So,
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Item E, sketch plan, 22nd in German. Sketch plan submitted by the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Erie for feedback from the Commission.
All right, good afternoon. Aaron Snippert, Executive Director of the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Erie. So in front of you today for comment is our 22nd Street feasibility study. So this is in the Central City neighborhood area, an area in which, if you're not familiar, the Redevelopment Authority has had a substantial interest in for dating back to the early 2000s. Back in the late 2000s, we developed and built, in connection with a bunch of community partners, 29 new builds, single-family residents in that area. Currently, we hold 24 vacant parcels across that area, a mix between the Redevelopment Authority and the land bank. This is a feasibility study to develop single-family infill housing on 4 of those parcels at the northwest corner of 22nd and German. So there's the 4 parcels that are currently identified that would be the development area for the new 6 single-family parcels. The City of Erie zoning district requirements in which that this development complies with by right, with no need for zoning variances as outlined in our feasibility study. The building design guidelines, which you all are pretty much aware of. It resides in an R2 zoning district, 1 per family living unit. So this is really the 4 parcels that we have now that are identified for this feasibility study. And so we started this probably about 2 years ago. It was a way for us to look at what the feasibility of developing and doing infill housing across the Redevelopment Authority and Land Bank's portfolio of vacant parcels. So we started here because of the massive amount of properties that we currently hold. So here's the elevations looking at the vacant parcels as they currently sit. Looking down 22nd Street toward German Street, so the development would be on the left-hand side from the house on the left there, going toward German. North. All right, so there's the look at the main site. All right, so here is the main thing. So we, through the feasibility study and working with module development out of Pittsburgh, we identified 2 different models, their Alma and their Clevelander, as kind of our selection for looking at the feasibility of this development. So 5 of which would be thought to be 2-story single-family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath models, and the 5th one, or the 6th and final, would be a single-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath model, which would be designed as accessible unit. So here again is the top view with the 6 lots identified. The coverage area is based upon the selection, with Lot A being the Clevelander, so it having a larger coverage area of 1,243 square feet compared to the 704 square feet of the Alma across there. So the 4 parcels would be subdivided and replotted into 6 parcels to accommodate this, again, which the lot size would accommodate no zoning requirement or no zoning variance needed for the development. So this is just the 2 floor plans for the feasibility study. The Alma being, like I said, a 2-story modular construction placed on a superior wall foundation with a full basement, 3-bedroom, 2-bath with 2nd floor laundry. And then the Clevelander, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, again on a basement, but the thought, again, like I said, would be for this to be accessible, so handicap accessible entrances. So just some street renderings of what it would potentially look like, off-street parking. No garages are our thought as far as feasibility. These projects, and as you can see in the last pages of it, as far as the construction costs, we're trying to minimize as much, because we know in order to complete any new development, we're going to have to heavily subsidize it to make them affordable. So I know this is hard to see. So the middle column would be the development cost for 5 OLMA units, and then the right column is what one individual unit would cost. There is a lot. The on-site estimated costs were put together by module utilizing their cost out of the Pittsburgh area. So there is a little bit of, I would say a little bit higher estimated cost on the on-site costs. So, and we wouldn't know that until we went out to bid for on-site construction of the project. So total to build 5 OLMAs would be almost a little over $1.9 million. And then one Clevelander would cost us roughly $359,000 under this feasibility study.
What is the, so 19,357, so we're talking, what, 300,000 almost?
Yeah, 380,
Yeah.
some, yeah.
390
Yeah.
apiece?
Yeah, and so in talking with some local realtors, we're estimating market rate sale in this neighborhood would be roughly 150 to 165, given standard grade, medium, mid of the road construction material. So there's approximately $150 to $180,000 in subsidy that would have to come on top to bring these down to an affordable level. Yeah,
So, you could, I have a comment and some questions. First, can you go back to the slide with the streetscape of the, yeah, that one's good. I think the scale is, like the 2-story scale is appropriate for the neighborhood. I'm all for modern flair, but the off-center windows is really, like, if you're going to offset windows, just good design. It's got to be driven by some architectural form, so it just looks awkward and out of balance.
That was a comment during when this was presented, and certainly they did say, and that would be a high priority, is to center the upstairs window, because there is nothing
The siding change, or there's a bump
design-wise.
out there or something, it would just look better. It just something looks weird there. But then the Clevelander unit just doesn't feel right to me. It just feels like out of scale in the neighborhood. And I get the objective of accessible units, but I highly recommend if you go 2 stories and make it flats. So I know there's more cost there, but you're also not required to have handicap units, right? Unless your grant is dictating that. So my preference would be to see that everything fits more into the context of the neighborhood with that little bit of modern touch.
Okay.
But the facade of the Clevelander feels balanced and well put together. So it's strong.
Yeah, we were trying to stick with the previous development included roughly, they were all single-family homes. They all had front porches, and certainly we tried to stick with that aesthetic, but wanted to focus on, and if we were going to do a feasibility study and go down this road, we wanted to look at models that we could infill on a standard city lot that's 35 to 40 foot wide that we have in multiple areas across the city. So these, the Alma being, that it's roughly 15'6" wide, easily fits on a 35-foot lot within most of the residential areas across the city of Erie.
Maybe the Clevelander would be more appropriate, like south of 26th Street, like the World War II tract neighborhood and houses.
Yeah, that was the Clevelander is a model, of course, they built for Habitat for Humanity in Cleveland, given the name Clevelander. So it was one out of the catalog that we picked as far as a single-family model. And so it's something that if we proceed into the design phase, we can certainly focus a little bit more on a model that would fit better in our neighborhood.
Like in the rhythm of those homes there, just a chip tooth is the analogy.
Yeah, I look at it, and the Clevelander obviously is out of character for the other items in the neighborhood, the houses in the neighborhood, and so, a steeper pitch, something that would make it feel more of a piece of the neighborhood would, and I understand that all comes down to cost finally. But otherwise, I think that the other units are appropriate and,
Front porches?
Front porches, yes.
Big fan. I'm honestly, I am just trying to wrap my head around the fact that we're talking about $390,000 for 1,200 square feet. I understand things are expensive, but in what world is that a viable path forward for our community? We need to address housing, and we don't have, we do not have a community that can support nearly $400,000 single-family housing that's 1,300 square feet. I mean, I don't know if this is, the fact that this is supposed to be modularly built, and you're still 200K in at that. I initially thought that it was a 200K build out. I thought that was, great. This isn't a solution. I mean, it's not only a poor use of city resources, in my opinion, but this is not viable for our community. It is not practical in any way, shape, or form. You would be better off getting a variance to build higher density and to build row houses or condos that single families can live in and take advantage of the economies of scale there. I'm a huge proponent of single family housing. By no means am I opposed to that, but this is just 400K, even subsidized. Well, it's great that there's some belief that we can find the money to subsidize, nearly $1.5 million worth of housing. Unfortunately, this is not a viable path forward. I am a huge proponent of creating a free housing library plan so we can do infill housing. Big fan. This ain't it. This ain't the answer. I mean, I love it. I think it looks pretty, all that. But at the end of the day, if what we're planning and talking about are $400,000 houses, basically, $387,000 houses, that's not.
Unfortunately, that's why people don't build single-family houses
I understand
in this
that.
market.
But I
Particularly
am struggling
for
to say
affordable.
that a 1,200 square foot house is at $387K or 1,300. I mean, we're talking about $300 per square foot new construction and I'm assuming these are not premium high-end finishes.
No.
I'm just saying, like, there's no economies of scale to be had here.
This is the new baseline, and this is what I've been seeing with clients in our market, and a lot of projects are dying at pro forma because the dollars are double. And
This is not directly to you, this is obviously a much bigger issue, but I mean, obviously our hands are tied. There's only so much that we can do to even lower those costs. I know we're trying to do that where we can, but this is a huge issue. This is unbelievable.
I'll point out that Aaron's got a big supply of existing housing in the city that could use strong reinvestment to improve it at a much more effective price.
I guess that's where I'm going is, I mean, how many houses do you have that could be gutted and rehabbed to a very nice standard for $2 million? I'm thinking probably at least 20.
Yes, you are correct. Yeah, in the current inventory, we do have roughly 15 to 20 homes that could use rehabilitated.
So that's 4 times the impact.
Right.
And again, not a criticism of you, it's just, this is more me just talking out loud. Like, we got to come up with a problem. We're not going to do it today, so I'll shut up after this. But I mean, again, not directed at you. I know I'm putting you in a bad position, but it's just, this is frustrating, I guess, for me to see these numbers being
I think it comes down to the
otherwise.
value of the dollar, and unfortunately, we can't affect that.
Yes.
We're aware, we have a large appraisal gap. We have a large gap between the cost of construction and what the sale value would be. But we also know, we have been awarded funding specifically for new development to start the process of subsidizing it. So certainly we have to do some kind of new development to make that, follow through with those grant requirements. But we also have a responsibility to this neighborhood that we started this development 20-some years ago to follow through. And certainly they still want to see, 20 years later, development continue within that neighborhood. And, we've certainly entertained different possibilities of infill, multi-unit on these areas, all of which that neighborhood was strongly opposed against. And so, the thought, and again, I agree with you. When we went down this road, I would love to see $75 to $100 square foot building again, but we know it's not there. But we also know new development within this neighborhood will have a
We'll
ripple
hope-
effect across it
absolutely.
and create generational wealth for the existing property owners, but then also hopefully drive some sale of some parcels that we don't own. If you're not familiar with this area, there's probably another 18 vacant lots across this area that are privately held by companies and corporations outside of our area that are just holding them. And so hopefully, the thought would be is if we focus some development, then maybe we will see some movement on those parcels as well, so.
The last thing I want to say, is, I've mentioned it a few times today, I brought it up with them. I've pushed for and would like to see a free library plan for housing. It looks like maybe there's an opportunity there for y'all to coordinate with the city, with planning department to try and get some of those so we can offer free plans for this type of infill development. I think these are kind of right up the alley of what we're looking for. So maybe there's an opportunity there to try and stretch some of this investment further too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have several questions, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
First, from the photos, Aaron, are these places fully ADA accessible?
The Clevelander would be the only unit that we would plan for ADA compliance.
Okay, and how does that fit in with the new construction of today and the requirements?
Single-family homes are not required to be ADA accessible.
And if, let's say somebody was in one of those homes and then needed to have ADA compliance issues that arise, is there space available, even though we might not be providing it through these plans, is there space that's going to be available for those future homeowners if they happen to fall into those circumstances?
To modify these homes?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like they have a big front yard or, if they have to have a, 20-foot long, runway to be able to get up to the entry point, is there enough space that's going to be available, if that happens?
I guess I would say certainly we can't plan for the unexpected, and so the thought would be is to market these homes to, families with children or, single-parent households, those type individuals that would be looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. I know our feasibility study of housing needs across the city of Erie shows that we have a shortfall in 3- and 4-bedroom units. We also know that the city of Erie has an abundance of 3-, and 4-, and 5-bedroom units across it. So that correlates to, we have a lot of individuals, single, elderly individuals aging in place in large homes that they don't need to be residing in. And so we've also looked at the feasibility of development of 2-bedroom, 2-bath units that would be ADA accessible to give those individuals a location to relocate to, freeing up a 3- and 4-bedroom unit. So we've looked at different things and different options in the availability of looking at those, and certainly more units as to that those handicapped or accessibly disabled type individuals would be able to move into and out of a unit in which putting a bathroom on a first floor and adding accessibility standards to would be excessively costly.
Okay, thank you for that. I just think we need to try and ensure what we're putting forth now is going to have the potential to be able to be ADA compliant. I know we can't predict everything down the road, but that is becoming more important, particularly in an aging community like we have.
Absolutely.
My next question is, are any of the parcels on this particular project any part of the land bank inventory?
No.
Okay, thank you for that, because that could potentially put me in a conflict of interest, so I want to ensure that that's not the case. The next question is, this is basically a isolated project that you're doing in this neighborhood. I assume you're not doing this as a test project to create this type of modular home at this cost across the entire city. And I assume that this is kind of a standalone one project, and that you potentially have specific funding, if not already in hand, anticipated, or what you might be looking to get grants for the offset of this additional cost. So that this isn't necessarily setting a precedent. This is because, I agree with my colleagues that it's an exorbitant amount of money to invest in 6 units, but there's programs now available that you are taking advantage of to offset that additional cost.
Yes,
Is
that is correct. And certainly, the thought, like I said, going into it was to look at some kind of model that we can replicate across our portfolio of lots if feasibility and funding permit. That's really where it is. But, this conversation did start with looking at pre-approved plans and looking at what we could do on our infill as far as our portfolio of parcels. And certainly, in order to do that, we tried to look at, what would cost look at scale? Where is that breaking point of how many units we have to commit to build to make it feasible? And so we certainly see that building 1 or 6 doesn't really bring the feasibility level down to any great degree.
And just so we're making the public aware, so this is money that's specifically available for new construction, not necessarily, what you're anticipating looking at, not necessarily renovation or rehabbing existing construction.
Yes, that
And
is
so
correct.
this is a specific silo of funding that could not be transferred to another potential.
Yes. Yeah,
Funding of projects. So
Yep.
it's not necessarily the best solution, but it's where the funding is available, I guess, in this particular case.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson, if I may, I also wanted to make note that this location has been prioritized within the Housing Accelerator for Infinite Erie, as well as priority investment in terms of neighborhood priority investment at the administrative level here at the City of Erie. We have used this particular neighborhood or this particular area, as well as the other priority neighborhoods, also in our indicators or our metrics for the Parks Plan, as well as for the housing plan that is going to be coming out, that this is a identified investment area. So what that means is that other tools that the city hopefully will use here in terms of code enforcement, safety, whatever that may be in terms of the tools that we already have existing within the city to reinvest into this neighborhood along with the housing development. So it's aligned with the other initiatives that are moving forward.
Great, that's good. I think that's good for the public to know. Thank you.
And just to add on to what Jackie said, just to give you a sense, so we built 29 homes. We own and control 24 parcels. There's also 18 blighted homes within this 12-block area that we're looking at. So, certainly it's not without its blight, but, there is a substantial amount of other investment that's already occurred within this area.
Yeah, and Mr. Anderson, I'd note that with the first floor bathroom, it appears as if the bathroom could be considered adaptable, going forward. First floor bedroom and an adjacent bathroom. So I think that that's certainly possible and is a reasonable concern going forward. But someday we're all going to be disabled.
Some of us are getting there sooner than later.
Right.
It's not really under our purview.
Yeah. No.
So is there action for us to approve anything, or is this just informational?
Information.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
This is when it should happen. Thank you, Aaron. All right. So, historic property nominations. Item A, 626 State Street. Nomination for City of Erie Municipal Building submitted by the Cultural Resource Manager, Matthew Falcone, who is absent today, for recommendation to City Council.
Okay, good afternoon. Matthew has been called away on, Cooper Moore, City of Erie.
Thank you.
Matthew's been called away on other preservation business, so I'm going to do my best to fill in for these presentations today. I'll do my best to answer any questions as we move through this. First nomination is for the Erie Municipal Building. You may be familiar with it. We're in it right now. Just a quick note, actually, Matthew and I did get to meet the original architect of this building, and we sat down with him and talked about what he remembered from designing this in the early 60s. And it is very closely modeled on the U.S. Embassy in Athens, designed by Walter Gropius. I mean, if you do it side by side, it's pretty much exact, other than a couple of adaptations for our climate compared to Greece. But where we are in the process, the Historic Review Commission did determine reasonable cause and vote to recommend this project, this historic nomination, to the Planning Commission earlier this month. After this, it'll go on to City Council for a hearing and a determination. This slide is in here just to remind the Commission of our responsibilities as they relate to historic preservation, considering whether the designation is consistent with the comprehensive plan and other plans and policies, and then to transmit a report to City Council with any recommendations. The location of the building, 626 State Street, right downtown. It is right on the border of the Erie Downtown Development Corporation and well within the Erie Downtown Partnership's footprints. You can see right here we are just south of Perry Square. This building was listed as a potential historic cultural resource in Erie Refocused and in the Erie Downtown Master Plan, which talks a little bit about building facades being interesting and a couple of other things. Our historic preservation plan does set out goals for designating new local landmarks and historic overlay districts and listing new properties in the National Register of Historic Places. News on this building that we just received yesterday, the application for the National Register of Historic Places was successful, and this building is listed on the register. Yay.
Yeah, I'm not clapping.
A couple of other things from the Historic Preservation Plan to identify property and resource types absent from previous inventories and to pursue collaborative efforts that advance the revitalization of downtown Erie. As you're aware from previous presentations, there is funding potential that comes with a designation. The Historic Resource Commission found reasonable cause and provided a positive recommendation for this nomination. And the suggested language for a motion recommending this nomination to City Council is on the screen. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them.
What was the reasonable cause?
The reasonable cause has to do with the significant activities that have taken place in this building. I think it's less aesthetic, but because it is old enough and it is the seat of the city government, a number of important and historic things have happened here and been done here, and that was the contributing cause.
I'm going to bite my tongue.
As a student of architecture, practicing for, I don't know, over 20 years now, I gotta say, this is one of the ugliest buildings I think I've ever seen. It's an embarrassment to our city. And the idea of preserving it for future generations and locking its preservation in and not giving my children or grandchildren the choice of being able to replace this ugly building with something more pleasing to look at is just dumbfounding to me. So I do plan on voting no for the sake of my children and unborn grandchildren so they someday can undo the wrongs that this building has done, because what was here from corner to corner so 80 years ago, was an absolutely beautiful strip of buildings along our public square. And now, if you weren't from Erie, I don't know how you would know if that's the front door or if that's the front door. That's how ugly this building is.
I have a question regarding process. You said that yesterday, got notification that it is on the National Historic Register. Is there a reason that procedurally that would go before any conversation at the local level as to whether or not it warrants, the community even saying, yes, we want to preserve this? Because the impact of that, it completely hamstrings, it puts us in a position where what can be changed potentially is dramatically limiting. I am of the opinion, I share any of Jason's views on this. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form this is the best use of the space for the community's benefit, nor do I think if you're at an event on Perry Square, this is a welcoming and inviting building that the community sees as a true resource for them. I think it's a building people more often want to avoid, and if they're here, they don't have great memories of why they were here. I don't think that that is a quote-unquote cultural asset that we should be trying to preserve and amplify. Realistically, I do believe that something much better suited, much more benefiting of the community should go here. Regardless of all of that, my original point of we're putting the cart before the horse, getting national designation before we even have the discussion at the local level of is this something our city and commissions and whatnot think is worthy and of that designation. So what's the process?
Sure. I'm not quite as familiar with the intricacies of the national versus local as Matthew, but the national, my understanding is that it's more of a formality and a recognition. The local designation, which is a totally separate process that we have total control over, is much newer and comes with protection from demolition and a couple of other things that are actual tangible results
So
of
I
designation.
apologize for interrupting
Yeah.
again. Not, I know you're just answering best you can. I guess in terms of the application, who makes the decision to go for national?
Yeah. So we received a grant to determine whether this was eligible. And then we hired a consultant, and the consultant put together an application and submitted that draft initially to the state. The state then went through the formal review process and determined that this was an eligible, reasonable cause and that it is now listed. State designation or national designation is honorary, like Cooper mentioned. But what it does allow, and this is really the most important thing, is it now allows us to apply for construction funding. So if we want to restore or fix up our lobby, we now can go out for grant funding that will allow us to do that. And that's the historic tax credits. So that is the most important part of this at the moment, is that we do have funding now to allow us to even fix our steam vents, for instance. That's one of the grants that we applied for this year, even before we were designated, just because we were hopeful. We did not get that grant, but we have an issue with our steam vents, and it would allow us to make those improvements and use funding through the state to do that. So that's one of the most important things. I do want to ask, have you read the nomination that was provided to you? Because it's a very interesting story about the old and the new. I've learned a lot along this process. And the old building, the City Hall chambers, was not accessible to the public. It was on the second floor, I believe, third floor. It was not a very open and warm, welcoming building. And the whole purpose of this architectural style and having the glass doors, and if you read through the nominations, is to make sure that the public has a voice, that the public has a place. And so there is a lot of architectural features that you might not even understand. there's some features outside. Cooper, you can speak to it maybe a little bit more in terms of bringing nature into this space that we don't necessarily, we're not using the way that it was intended. But the story, I know in terms of municipal government and what happens here is what made it pass through the eligibility, but in terms of the architectural features and the difference that it has, it is very notable and interesting. Even when Matthew is going to be giving tours of City Hall, he talks about these windows on either side and that they mirror the Parthenon.
Yeah, this chamber modeled on the
There's
Parthenon.
windows in the Parthenon with aluminum frames?
Well, let Cooper, if you could
Well-
explain just quickly, just so you understand the significance here.
Yeah, that was one of the things in Matthew's tour, is that this chamber is modeled on the Parthenon as an example of democracy and democratic ideals, and it's obviously a very modernist reinterpretation of the Parthenon with none of the delicate ornamentation. But this City Hall, this municipal building, being a very radical reaction to the old City Hall that was convoluted and confusing and very decorative, that was not open to the public. And if you walked in, you wouldn't know where to go to make your voice heard. And now in this new municipal building, as soon as you walk in, you're in the middle of it. That glass wall can roll away, and there's no missing what's going on. I mean, if you walk in, you can see what City Council is doing and the decisions they're making, as opposed to them doing it behind closed doors in the old municipal building.
That's not a space to brag about. Look at it. It looks like a
Well,
Kmart.
we've lost some of those features, and that is part of the application.
I don't know how much
is
lipstick
to
you could put
improve the
on that.
lobby. So we recognize that, and that's why we'll be able to go out for funding to make improvements in our lobby.
I appreciate everything that's been said and the arguments that there's a history and all to it, but at the end of the day, whatever intention was behind the architecture, it has failed to convey whatever message it means to effectively, because I don't feel any of that, I don't see any of it, and I think there are plenty of the community that would argue walking in here does not give them any sense that their voice is being heard. So some artistic notion or abstract notion that the design conveys their voice being heard and improves their representation, I don't see any way, shape, or form that this building's reflective of that. That's the last thing I will say on the matter, though. So I appreciate the effort going into it, not criticizing any of that. I think it's a misguided effort.
Mr. Chairman, I would have to agree with my colleagues and say that certainly the history of what happens here is the history of our community. And having to codify that in making this a historical designation and using that legitimate history seems to me what is the purpose of what is happening is just to be able to secure grant money, to be able to do renovations to the building, to me brings up further concerns of how financially stable is our community if we cannot afford to keep our own municipal building up to date and functional. If in fact we have to create a historical designation for it to be able to get the funding to undergo the construction. I think in a certain sense, and I'm certainly not an expert in it, that we're somewhat perverting the purpose of what the historic designations are and actually preserving the history of our community and giving particularly private citizens the opportunity to invest in those historic buildings and have the incentive to invest in our city. It just seems to me that the city government needing to do that to take care of its own property is kind of a stretch to creating this as a historic designation. The history that is here, that exists here, and that will continue here, is the history of this community. And that should not be lessened by being used to have to get grant money to invest in the building.
Thank you. I think it's important that the history of this building be fully documented. I mean, this building participated in the financing, the administration, and the approval of the wholesale destruction of downtown area and the history that belatedly we've come to now seek to honor and remember. And so, well, Matthew can talk all he wants about this being representative of Parthenon or it being reflective of the Greek American Embassy in Athens by Walter Gropius. We're so far away from that, and the notion of what a city hall in a democracy, in a city, means to people has evolved far beyond what was originally developed. That this design, I mean, this represents now security concerns and hazardous materials and blah, 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 that I take a long time for me to get to the point where I think it's certainly not a great architectural object in and of itself. The cultural history, perhaps, can make that argument. I just, you know, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it is, it's the cart before the horse in some respects. The fact that it has the National Historic designation kind of obviates what we can do. And I think that it would be silly not to recognize it's important to the community, but it also is going to significantly hamstring the community and what can be done in this building, because it now has, it has to be improved or renovated, restored, given the design ethos that it originally represented, you know. And if somebody wants to make an argument over it, any particular choice, there's going to be a lot of wrangling about whether the windows that the city replaced the original curtain wall with is appropriate or not. And I think that I can think of lots of historic people, consultants, who would have blanched at the thought of what happened. And that one little thing.
I'd like to make a motion to reject the...
Can I, before you make a motion, I'm sorry to interrupt you, can we go back one slide, please? Maybe the next one. Yes, this one. So this nomination has already gone to the HRC, to the Historic Review Commission, and has already had, they've approved it for reasonable cause. And it has come before you to uphold the comprehensive plan and whether it meets the comprehensive plan. And other development plans and policies only, and transmit a report detailing its recommendations to City Council. If you recommend it to City Council, it then will have a public hearing where the public can come forth and state their opinion on whether they find that it's historic or whatever else. Yes.
I just want to clarify, I think it will move forward to council regardless of a recommendation from Planning Commission. It will move to council for a hearing and a vote.
It will just go without our recommendation.
It will just go and we would
It
say the
would.
Planning Commission did not recommend.
It would, but it would be a better process, that's the normal process
Right.
for it to have the support of the Planning Commission.
But it doesn't.
So just to bring
It
it
doesn't
back,
have the support, though.
just to bring it back into focus a little bit, because it's already been deemed eligible and with reasonable cause by the HRC. It's come before you to uphold the comprehensive plan and any other development plans. That is the lens in which you are looking at this application.
Then I will
Mr.
make a
Chairman.
motion.
Mr. Chairman, before we, can I make a comment, please, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman?
I think what Cooper said, it was correct. So the HRC voted on it on its merits based on what they consider. The Planning Commission will then vote on it on its merits to consider. So whether it's a positive recommendation or a negative recommendation, it still goes to City Council. I just want to clarify that. So you're allowed to make your own recommendation. City Council will then, after a public hearing, will then make their final determination. I just want to
Understood.
clarify that.
Yep.
So in case there's any confusion about what the vote means.
Luckily, we've got.
And Solicitor
Mr.
Check, I am
Chairman.
trying to
Shop.
clarify what lens in which the Planning Commission is looking at the application. And it's not necessarily in terms of its eligibility, in terms of whether it meets the historic designation. They're looking at it through this lens, which is on the slide here.
Well, I understand, but it's also been presented as a possibly historic project suitable for rezoning for the zoning overlay. So I still think they're allowed to vote on it, make the recommendation the way they may.
The way they choose.
Because the City Council will then have the final vote on whether the zoning overlay is approved. That's how I
Understood.
look at it.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Anderson.
if I could, I should have made the comment during my other comments that every other project that has been brought before us from the standpoint of historic review, I have supported wholeheartedly. I think they've been great projects, and I think they fit into the intent and dignity of what the Historic Review Committee was created for, and what the whole process is supposed to be about, to give some extra oomph to a project, some luster, some really gravitas to making it a special place because of many specific reasons. And I certainly just don't agree with this one, but I've agreed with every other one, and so we can't agree with all of them. So I'd like to make a suggestion before motions that what if we table this and ask for more clarification, or if we table this and don't vote yes or no, does it still go to City Council for review? And we would have to take a vote one way, okay.
I don't want to table it. I prefer to not talk about it ever again.
Well,
Okay. All right.
I think my decision is that I will choose to make a motion that we consider that this designation as consistent with the municipality's comprehensive plan and other development plans and policies. And we'll transmit, the secretary will transmit a report detailing our recommendation to City Council. So moved. Is there a second?
So to clarify, is this a motion to recommend?
Yes.
Okay. I will second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed? Nay. The motion fails.
If you can
Can we make a
note
motion?
that, our honorable city council people,
Can we submit a report to them to reject it?
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
like,
that-
yeah,
that-
I would
That
like
was
to make
unanimous.
a motion
Yeah.
to notify city council of our
They'll be
negligence
notified.
to, I mean, that's, yeah, I guess.
That's the first, just to note, that's the first time we've ever been unanimously a no
On something.
in a decade.
Mr. Chairman, since that was still going through under the same report, did we actually vote on the 10th Street one? Or do-
No, no,
Okay.
we get to do this again.
Oh, good.
Some
Thank
more. Cooper,
Okay.
back at it.
Yes, we have a second nomination. This one is for the Bittaker and Rastetter House. Again, this is where we are in the process. The HRC has determined reasonable cause for historic designation and provided a positive recommendation to City Council, and it's now for the Planning Commission to consider. This project is located 357 and 359 East 10th Street. You can see on the map here that it sits within a hole in our neighborhood map. There's no dedicated neighborhood organization that oversees the location of this project. You can see it here on 10th Street. We just read this at the last presentation, but this is the Planning Commission's charge relating to historic resource protection. Erie Focus talks about historic cultural resources. I can't see that far if it is listed, but it looks like it's not identified in Erie Refocused as a potential historic resource. In the East Bayfront Neighborhood Plan, in the long-term action plan, they talk about identifying homes that have the most potential for rehabilitation and are adjacent to new or existing parks, and acquiring property to prioritize home improvement funding. Our historic preservation plan, as we went over, puts out goals for designating new local landmarks and historic overlay districts and listing new properties and districts in the National Register of Historic Places. In addition to strengthening preservation advocacy networks through partnerships with traditional and non-traditional partners and telling Erie's diverse stories. The HRC found reasonable cause and provided a positive recommendation to City Council. And there is a suggested motion on the screen.
So moved.
Second.
Being a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Thank you.
That wasn't too bad.
All right, item H, executive session. I think given comments earlier, I have no reason for that.
There's still item G.
Item G.
You're
G?
outside.
Oh, we're outside, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes.
Item G, adoption of Erie outside.
Yeah, this is just kind of a quick follow-up item. The Erie Outside, the Comprehensive Parks and Recreation and Open Spaces Plan, has been presented to the Planning Commission at a special meeting last month, and we had a study session with City Council last month as well. Today is the last day of the 30-day public comment period. It's been posted online. We've gotten some feedback from citizens there, so at the end of the day today, that comment period will be closed, and we'll work on a final draft of the plan incorporating the feedback we've received. I went to one final engagement event in person last week in the West Bayfront to talk about the goals in the plan and where we are in the process. So up next, once all of the feedback is incorporated, will be final adoption.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So is there, we need to make a motion to approve? No? Okay, just noting it's going. Okay, thank you. Now, item H, executive session. Like I said, I don't think, given comments earlier, there's a reason to consider anything. All right, 8, Bureau of Planning and Zoning update. What do you got for us? Come on, all singing, all dancing.
We are actively working on the amendments. Just wanted to let you know. The hope, like I said, is to have some zoning amendments in front of you by the end of August, beginning of September. You already saw you approved the saldo, although I thought we were going to address the traffic impact study, but maybe Leanne was not available for this meeting, but we'll make sure to have her on for August Planning Commission, and I think you had some questions around the traffic impact study. So we also, with Matt Puz, the Chief Zoning Officer, coming on, he's been actively reading and reviewing every section of the zoning ordinance. And we understand without a comprehensive plan update and going through that process, we are a little bit, well, we're quite limited in terms of making great changes at the moment. But he has been noting certain things that he will bring forth to the Planning Commission in August, early September. So we're working through those. Let's see. Hannah also went to a Sisters of St. Joseph neighborhood market, the market that they have,
Yep.
and had a table for the parks plan. I don't know. Oh, good. I don't know if, I don't know how many comments we've received. I know Rich provided several comments, I think, before the appendices were put forth, and we have read through those. We do actually have a few questions for you that maybe afterwards we can talk through. I don't know if the other commissioners have seen your comments on the parks plan, but from what I heard from the consultants, we had roughly 20 to 25 comments that came through the public. So the majority of the comments with the public have been positive, and we've had a good feedback in some of our public engagement for the recommendations and the themes and overall vision of the plan. I don't think I have anything further. Cooper, do you have something to add?
Yes, Jackie and I were on episode 3 of the city's podcast, Footnotes from City Hall,
Congrats.
talking about ongoing planning and zoning initiatives. So feel free to give it a listen. Any good streaming service will carry the city's podcast, and you can find it there.
It's 35 minutes.
Saw it in the newsletter.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
good.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So I had one last
Thank
thing. I wanted to suggest transmitting a letter from you on behalf of the Planning Commission, summarizing, kind of reflecting our thoughts with regards to the historic designation recommendation for this building. I think the fact that it was unanimous rejection for the first time, as well as some of the comments, it might be helpful to articulate some of those clearly in a letter to City Council, just to make sure they get the full scope of
Kathy,
of our perspective.
Kathy, do you want a letter from us about what just occurred?
Well, Marilyn watched the meeting online. Andre was here, myself was here, but just said
Be helpful to your conversation?
Pardon?
Will it be helpful to your conversation at City Council?
Yes.
Yeah, I write a letter after all of them anyway that summarizes the thoughts and provides
Okay.
the verdict.
Now I'm done.
I'll
Ready?
leave it to Cooper. Capture the zeitgeist. Now,
I'll restate my motion to adjourn.
Second.
motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you all for a most